9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey guys, it's Lori with the Capital Film Arts Alliance. I am particularly festive tonight because this is our pre-Thanksgiving show, and I didn't have any place to go to wear my fancy top, so I thought I would make this a celebratory webcast. So feel free to go join me, get your fancy stuff on, and come back. We are bringing you another episode of the CFAA Film Talk, which is designed to connect you and inform you and get everybody engaged. So we have an incredible group of folks that we were just talking behind the scenes, and I'm just loving, the history that can come back in regards to their business, their path in the industry, but also their connection being here in Sacramento as well. All of them have that. So we'll learn all of that and a lot more. If you have any interest before the end of the year in supporting a local nonprofit, the CFAA has a donate page on our website, which is at capitalfilmarts.org. We're not charging for anything that we're doing now. We just really want to keep everybody connected and find ways to bring really talented people to our community. So, but if you're inclined, we will not turn it down. And we also have a special treat tonight because not only do we have this Adobe creative team, which consists of Erik Espera, who is the Adobe, I'm totally dropping his title, but he's a big up there. In addition, Mike Burton, we've got Erik Maddox, and also Webb. All of them have reputations of their own, and then they get together in this little Adobe unit, and they create amazing things, and Adobe gives them opportunities to do some really cool stuff on the business side of how to market their products. So they'll talk to us a little bit about that. Interviewing them, our guest interviewer is somebody that we all know and love, and that's Aaron Leong. Aaron is a Sacramento filmmaker also, and his grasp and work in the industry is just incredible. I am first person on his fan club team. So we've got all of this coming to you, and any questions that you have, please, Facebook Live, that's the cool thing, that you can go on there and you can add any comments, you can add any questions, and we will archive this, and all of those will remain. We'll also feed questions in to the guys, so as we're having the conversation. So with that said, happy holidays, happy week before Thanksgiving. I want to cheers to all of you as we get started, and gonna have Aaron come on out, Aaron, and he's gonna help introduce the guys.
Hi. Hey everybody, how's it going? So yeah, I'd like to introduce Erik Espera and Mike and Ian and Erik Maddox. Come on out and introduce yourselves. Tell us what you do. Tell us what your role is in this whole thing.
Hey everybody, my name is Erik Espera. I'm the Associate Creative Director on our video team. I'm also the head of production for our Adobe Studio video team. And we kind of act like as our in-house agency. We work with our internal business units, from the different like design to video to photo groups, and we create whatever needs to appear on adobe.com or large events like Adobe Max, Adobe Summit, or our social channels. I feel really fortunate to be able to work on this team. We have a great team of video producers that's led by Dan Cowles. He's our executive creative director. I'm the associate creative director. We have an awesome executive producer, Summer Wilson, who has several talented senior producers that work for her, and a editor and a motion designer that work on our internal team. But because we have a volume of projects that happen at any one given time, because we are supporting different BUs, we often have to reach out and work with external teams to get these things done. And I've been really fortunate to work with Mike, Ian, and Erik for many years to create some really fantastic videos for Adobe.
Hey everybody, my name is Mike Burton. I run a small production company called Pretty Moving Pictures, and I am one of the vendors that Adobe chooses to work with on some of their amazing projects. And yeah, Ian?
Hey, my name is Ian Webb. I not necessarily a Adobe vendor, but I get hired through Mike Burton a lot, working for Adobe. I own also kind of a one-man band production company called Merge Digital Media. Work as a DP, editor, drone operator, kind of a little Swiss Army knife. And I think that's kind of what you have to be, especially in Sacramento. You know, kind of be pretty versatile. And so, yeah, I've been working in the industry since about 2011, and things get better every year. So,
Erik, oh,
You did.
You got to unmute.
My first day on the interwebs. I work as my name's Erik Maddox. I work as a DP editor. Mike brings me on a lot of these Adobe jobs, get through those from time to time, and also have my hands on a lot of other projects around Sacramento and the Bay Area and whatnot. So, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, talk about what it is you guys do, and how you put these projects together for Adobe. Like, how does it come down the pipeline, and where do you guys fit in?
Well, the projects come down, really from, our studio managers and our executive creative director, and working with our executive producer, Summer, we kind of figure out like what videos need to get made, which producers they need to get assigned to, because each producer is assigned to a specific vertical, and then who is the right vendor to work on those projects. So, it depends on what story we're trying to tell. We try to pair the right vendor with the project. So if it's an animation-based project, we'll work with some other group. But if it's like a customer story, an event, location-based video where we have to travel, then we start looking at groups like Mike, Erik, and Ian, and figure out how we can pull this together and how we can make it happen. So usually we'll just kind of get a brief from the BU about what they want to do. Is it a social video? Is it a video that's going to appear on Adobe.com? Is it going to be something for our events? And then we start figuring out the logistics. The producers will bring in the vendors at that point, and we'll all kind of talk together and figure out like, is it going to be screen captures? Are we going to have talent involved? Do we have to travel? Do we have to hire a remote crew? Like, how does it all come together? So we figure out all those logistics. But yeah, what's nice about, I guess, our team is that like no video is ever really the same. Like we do such a variety of things that not only do we have to keep it, not only is it keeping it interesting for our customers and the people that like to view our videos, but for us, the creators, it's always a challenge to figure out ways to make this new content. And so it's never been boring in like the 11 years I've been in Adobe. So that's kind of how they get made.
I have a question just because my background is in producing and distribution and marketing. So how do you gauge effectiveness from the different types of content? Is there any kind of a specific level that you're looking for effective?
I think, each team that approaches us for a video, they'll have their own sort of metrics for success, whether it's trying to get people to download trials of video of our products and, convert to sales, or if it's just, you know, raising awareness and, you know, essentially raising awareness and creating brand loyalty through that. So, you know, it could be, you know, views on Facebook, it could be reshares on Twitter, but, you know, those metrics are defined by the teams that request a video, and they work closely with our social teams to be able to figure out, you know, what is successful, or, you know, what would be successful in their eyes. And that helps them kind of figure out, like, where they, you know, how they spend, you know, media buys, if that's a part of the process. So.
Right. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah,
Right on.
and then I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Aaron.
No, go ahead. Go finish.
Well, I was just going to say, and then from my side of things, typically Erik or another producer at Adobe will contact me, and we'll have a little kickoff meeting to discuss the project scope, and then once we go ahead and get moving on the job, then like, for example, Erik and I have an office together, and Ian is always just a phone call away, and I call those guys up, who are my, you know, trusted partners, and we discuss the project, typically at length. And then oftentimes we have as well lots of, well, we used to, before COVID, have some pretty long car rides down to the Bay Area to discuss even further. And we would, so we would do our homework, we would get prepared, usually loading up a truck full of gear, and then we go and execute. And then we come back to the office and we start, you know, going through all the footage and putting it together. And usually that's where I also rely very heavily on both Erik and Ian to help me, you know, put those projects past the finish line.
Cool. So real quick, would you guys mind letting us know how you guys got into the industry? Like, what was your path that led you to where you are?
Sure, I'll start. So I actually wanted to be a park ranger. Like, my whole goal in life was to work at Yosemite National Park and be a park ranger. Like, I loved that whole idea. I was just like, I couldn't wait to go outdoors and just be out in the wilderness. Like, I had taken a geography class at Casumnes, and Steve Cunha was the professor there, and I took one of his honors classes, and he taught us how to, like, you know, to backpack properly, right? No impact backpacking. And he was a park ranger there, and I was just like, that's what I want to do. But I needed some electives, and I needed some other classes to sort of like round things out. So I took a video production class at Casumnes, and really just kind of fell in love with production. I was like, this is rad. I felt like, I figured I had like this aptitude for it. Like, I soaked up everything. And it reminded me of, like, you know, when I was in high school and stuff, I was a kid with a video camera, you know, video recording all my friends on this big VHS camera. And so it was like, something just kind of clicked. And then I had the opportunity, like, while I was in class, to be a production assistant at Calumet Studios in Rancho Cordova, because they were filming a regular TV show called The Big Spin TV Show. And it was the California State Lottery show, and you know, in order to get on the show, you had to buy scratchers, and you were guaranteed to win some money. But if you were lucky enough to be able to get a spin ticket, you could spin this big giant wheel, and if you won $1 million, then I was a kid that would drop the balloons from the ceiling when somebody won $1 million, and that then, you know, kind of sucked because I had to pick all the balloons up at the end of the show and then put them all back. But I loved that so much. I was just like, wow, you could really, like, make a living doing this. And they had editing facilities, and I just got to know everybody that was there. And a couple years later, you know, I ended up, you know, editing the show on an Avid in the lottery headquarters, you know, as, you know, moved my way up from production assistant to, like, editor, and just kind of continued my path forward and took every opportunity that I could. But Lori had asked a question earlier, like when we were talking behind the scenes, about how, you know, like if there's any connection to CAA or CFAA in sort of my trajectory. And I remember that before I got my job at Adobe, I had answered an ad on Craigslist, and there was a band, a Star Trek band, who some of you might know, Warp 11. They had shot a TV pilot, and they needed help re-editing it because they weren't really happy with the edit. So I met up with them and tried to help them with the edit. It was, it was okay. But a couple months later, there was an opportunity to make a music video for SAC Music Scene. And that's where I got to meet Lori. And I did this video for the Star Trek band. It was completely ridiculous. But got to be really good friends with the band. And the lead singer actually worked at a company that was acquired by Adobe like a year before. And an opportunity came up on his team. He was like, do you know anybody that wants to work at Adobe? And I was like, yeah. It's like, I do. So I submitted my reel and my resume, went through a bunch of interviews, and ended up getting a job there. So I've been there for like 11 years. I've been here at Adobe for 11 years, but I've done so much in between, moving down to LA for like 5 years, starting at .com, dropping out of college, just taking every opportunity that was there or creating my own opportunities, and then networking and meeting up with these guys, because I met these guys in Sacramento before I even came to San Francisco. So, forging those relationships ahead of, Adobe was sort of really important for me.
I dig that you guys are all still gelled as a team, and even as you're saying, you've got to get all of the pieces and parts in place before you start a project. How much of that is on what's your availability, because you're each doing a different business of your own. So having to kind of be available because you want to do that gig, but you've also got, the team on your hands. So, but I love that you're all maintaining that together.
Yeah,
I know Erik actually had a kind of like a similar start. You started young like I did too. Like I was 19 when I started at Calumet, but you were also really young, right? When you started, because you were at Flushing, right? Flushing. Was that you?
Yeah, I started in working. Well, I got my first internship in '96, and that turned into about 9 years of being on staff there. And right around that time, you failed to mention that's when we met on that Warp 11 music video. And
that's right.
I
was going to say,
yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I met Brian Ham on that shoot also, who, when I look at and I call this my tree of success, the branches of that tree are people like you and Brian Ham and a few other people in Sacramento that ultimately ended up connecting all the dots and all the people. And that's why, those relationships, especially in a town like this, ultimately, I quit a job that I had for 9 years and immediately had work available and had just gotten married and told my wife I wanted to quit my job and go freelance, and then it just kind of took off from there. So so I started early, and so I've been working as a freelancer since 2005 now, 2006. So
y'all were babies. And now you have babies. You have 2 babies, don't you? Right?
Yeah, so 2. Well, they're 10 and 5. So yeah. But I remember going to the CFAA meetings really early on. When I think about a year after you'd started this, and it was a great networking place. There's a lot of people that I met and a lot of relationships that I made there. Relationships that I look back on and go, I wish I had actually kind of stuck with those a little bit more, because they went on. I watched other people go on to have success that I was like, man, I wish I'd been a part of that project. So these kinds of opportunities are great. So yeah.
I think I told Aaron like the CFAA meetings and the SAC music scene opportunities. I always felt like it was an opportunity to kind of scout out local talent. Who's doing the cool stuff? Who do I want to work with? I want to try to get on that person's project, and and so it was a really good opportunity to kind of network and meet some really cool people.
It's still that way, and we were having monthly in-person meetings for actors, writers, and filmmakers every week. So we literally had 3 or 4 meetings a month. They gave people that opportunity to, if you want to talk to writers and find out where the good scripts are going to be coming from, or go to the actors workshop and see the person who's putting some time into their skills. And it's really in the filmmakers group, I saw connections made there every single time. So this is, this is our way of trying to connect people to the dots still. And it's just actually, it's interesting. It's allowing us to kind of spread the umbrella further because people are available and they're home. And it's, the issue is not, oh yeah, I got to work that day. We can all find a way to make time when we want to make time. But
Yeah.
the relationships that we build and the importance of that, you guys are a really good example of how important that is. Aaron, I know you worked with Ian, and I want to hear from Ian too, but have you worked with these guys otherwise?
Yeah, I've worked, Mike had me come out and work on a couple of projects for Adobe. Some of their big conferences when the sales conference when before COVID, when people could still get together, full conferences. But yeah, I've worked with these guys before, yeah.
Good. Yeah, if not, I was going to say, you guys need to jump on that because
yeah, Aaron was at our last sales conference, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
The last one,
yeah, in Vegas, yeah. So real quick, I want to give Mike and Ian a chance to talk about their paths as well, because I mean it's so interesting. Everybody's got their own little path, like how they got into the industry, and it's always different. It's never the same.
It's like it's different, but it all kind of has a similar pattern. I feel like, I went to the Art Institute where your meetings. I don't know, were they still held there before COVID, Corey?
We were there at the Art Institute for 10 years until they shut down, and then we're in our second location now at the Eden Studios.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So I mean, I graduated there in 2011, and during that time, I mean, I did the same thing. I tried to do I did some of the SAC film and music scene film festivals. I did a couple music videos through there. Like, used any opportunity I could with all that access to the gear we had from the school. I mean, I learned more doing those festival events than I did in some of my classes. So, and that's how I met Erik Espera. He was working on a music video with Brian Ham, and I came out and helped for free. And that's when I met Brian. That's when I met Erik. I think Jay Truesdale was there.
Was that the Nakia video?
Yeah. And then right. And I don't think I worked at Silverado. Well, I interned at Silverado Studios, but I don't think you were there at that point, Erik. I think you had just left. So I was just trying to get around, the industry as much as I could while I was in school. And then from there, right when I graduated, I got a job working for a local cooking show as their finishing editor up in Lodi. And that was good. That lasted for a couple years. And I was still working. Aaron and I were working on projects immediately. I mean, through college, and all the way, up until now. So we've been through this time. I've always been working with Aaron. We used to shoot way too many together. Got burnt out of weddings, but we did it the right way. At least, I mean, we brought steady cams and jibs and tried to make them look as cinematic as we could. But hey, it paid the bills, and then I was still freelancing when I met Erik Maddox. Actually, I worked on a Nilo commercial. I think was the first time I met you, Erik. And that's the same thing. Like, me and Erik really helped the snowball move faster, because then he introduced me to Ryan Todd, and he was doing Smosh at the time. So then I got onto Smosh, and that lasted. I mean, I AC'd for John Jimenez for like 2 years and learned a ton. And then I worked.
That's where we met, Ian.
What's that? Oh, that's where we met too. Yeah.
I think that's where we first met. Yeah, you came to pick up a computer, I think, at my house one day.
That's right. Yeah, because I did do some DIT work for them too. So yeah, that's kind of it. You kind of meet everybody, but you just have to be busy, and you have to be, trying to meet people too. And I think
if you're good, that reputation precedes you, and people want to work with you, and you find that you're scrambling to keep up with everything. John Jimenez was my very first DP on my very first film. And Ryan Todd, when he was working as a PA and a grip, and he was, pushing a shopping cart because we couldn't afford a dolly, we made several projects together. And some of my favorite people are AI graduates. We have, Reggie, who is our engineer here, and he doesn't get enough credit because he's back there pulling the levers and everything. He's an AI graduate. So, props to our graduates. And somebody posted, rest in peace, Art Institute, because we need to have that fountain, that's really pushing the next level of talent in our region. So hopefully something happens. Yeah. You guys have an example of why that's important. For sure.
Thank you. Yeah, and I met Erik Espera, through that music video, but right 2014-ish, he called me about going to Amsterdam. I think that was the first time we worked on a Adobe together, which was an awesome project to be the first project to work on. Hey, you want to go to Amsterdam? I was like, yes, I do. So that was kind of it. Then the Adobe projects picked up after that. And yeah, I think just being able to do a few different jobs well is important. Like I said earlier, just because I can shoot and I can edit. And I think that for the jobs that we go do and when we were traveling, that's an important part, is being able to, wear a few hats and alternate with your buddies when you're out there, because somebody else might need to go somewhere and shoot something, then you can jump on their edit. So yeah, so things, just like I said, picked up over the years, and yeah, I'm still working with everybody I like to work with. So that's what's nice about Sacramento. It's a nice tight knit group of people, but I seem to meet new people all the time. It's a bigger city than I sometimes give it credit for. So that's why your meetings are important, because Aaron meets people all the time. Then he's gotten jobs from, I can't count how many jobs he's gotten there, and from going to meet people at CFAA. So
yep, just networking. It really is networking. Yeah. Mike, how about you? Like, what got you interested in all this craziness?
So I guess I was kind of a late bloomer into the film and television world, or at least I feel like I was. Kind of felt like a little bit of a lost kid, not really knowing what he wanted to do after high school. So just kind of went to work at, I believe, Costco for a few years, and then I ended up at Office Max, and then I remember it was just a really cold day in the warehouse one day there, and I was just like, I have to do something else, otherwise I may be stuck here forever, And so I just opened up the, is it the yellow pages or the white pages? I can't remember. Anyways, one of them, I opened it up, and right there was the Academy of Art University, or at the time it was Academy of Art College. And I decided, okay, I'm going to go take a tour, because I'd always really enjoyed watching and kind of dissecting movies with my buddies. And I went to, that's in San Francisco. Yeah, I used to live in the Bay Area. In fact, that's where I was born and raised. And so I went and took a tour, and I was hooked, man. I remember I was walking by the tape-to-tape editing bays, and I thought that was like the most amazing thing. I was watching students piecing together, some kind of random edit from Star Wars, and I was just like, oh, this looks amazing and fun, and I want to do it, and I did it, and I never looked back. I was hooked ever since. And then I was in the Bay Area, or graduated in 2004. So I was in the academy from 2000 to 2004. And then shortly after that, my fiance and I moved out to the Sacramento area, where I knew nobody. So I was a little concerned. I was still doing a lot of back and forth to the Bay Area with my network that I had accumulated through school and other avenues, and started looking for resources in the local area. And I found Erik and Erik Espera, and we kind of bonded over the whole red camera stuff. In fact, one of the weird things is I think I met Erik actually first in San Francisco at Adobe before he was actually at Adobe, because he was showing off the red cameras and everything there. And then we ended up kind of reconnecting later back in Folsom, and then very shortly after I met Erik, because Erik is Erik Espera is such a wealth of knowledge of the local talent, and kind of seemed like everybody kind of came and went through him. Just kind of playing with the cameras, just kind of playing with cameras one day. I met Erik Maddox, who just the other day sent me a fun photo of the first day that we actually met outside of the office there, and the rest is kind of history. Then in 2010 or that's it, there it is. There we go.
I remember that. Like you're always in your like flip flops, like Brian Ham.
Yeah,
like, never wear shoes.
Yeah,
Right?
had a lot more hair back then.
Mike's flip-flops are nicer than Brian's shoes.
I was ready to work that day, as you can tell.
Yeah, that's good advice for anybody that's watching this. Don't show up and set with flip flops nowadays.
Oh no, Mike and Brian.
The gorilla something.
Yeah.
Your calling card.
And then in 2010 or 2011, I believe it was 2010, as Erik Espera and I formed Pretty Moving Pictures.
2009.
Was it 2009?
Because that's when I started at Adobe. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So 2009, we kind of formed this this post-production company at the time, where we were kind of mostly concentrating on color grading and finishing, and went and did some feature film projects that kind of helped fund us and get us started in the business. And then that slowly over the years kind of morphed into a production company business as well, where we started doing corporate work once Erik kind of left the company and focused solely on Adobe. And then I started working with Adobe part-time while I was also, running the other business, doing a little bit of back-end content management for their Adobe TV system. And then we started doing production work together, and the rest is history. And then I met Ian through Erik. I think the first time that Ian and I actually met was through Smosh Gig, but when he came to pick up a computer, and then we started talking. And then Erik Maddox called me one day and said, "Hey, let's go to NAB." And he said, "This guy Ian's coming with us." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And then that was kind of history. And then I met Aaron.
Did I meet you guys there? Didn't we like meet at one of like the hotel lobbies, and we all kind of like,
we went to dinner that night too.
Yeah.
Well, ironically, John Jimenez just came on, and he wanted to just say hi. Nice job.
John.
What's up, John?
He heard us talking about him. He heard us talking about it.
His ears are itching.
Right.
So
That's funny. We need to get Ryan Todd and Brian Ham and
I know.
Aaron too. Aaron's back in
I've
town.
been working with Ryan Todd the last couple weeks, so he's,
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Will you tell him hi, and that
will.
he has a place of honor that we should have in this group almost?
You should have, if you do more of these in the future, you should have him on, because he'd be a great chat too.
I've been trying to get him as a guest, but Smosh had him so busy, and we had physical meetings, so it was hard to get him booked. But yes, I definitely will. That would be one that I would do if the opportunity came up in December.
Yeah, and he's got just a
love him. I love him. I miss him so much.
And if you guys get a chance, like one of the I get to produce like kind of odd things for like in the corporate space. Like I got to make a talk show, right? We called it Make It, and we did like 79 episodes of this thing. We built a set in our San Francisco studio, and we had 3 segments. We had a photo, we had a set of photo hosts, a set of design hosts, and a set of video hosts. But Ryan Todd was one of our kickoff guests for the show. So it was good to connect with him and catch up with him and to have him sort of help launch our Make It show. So
that's cool. Ryan met the Smosh guys at a CFAA meeting.
Wow.
Right. That's crazy.
Full circle. Crazy shit.
So let's get into some of your projects that you worked on with Adobe. Like, what are some of these projects that really stood out to you that you really like? Wow, that was really cool when you look back on it.
We have a handful of videos sort of queued up to show. Mike, what do you want to start with? Do we want?
I mean, I think you should definitely start with Scuba Man. I mean, that's where it all started.
All right.
And it's just a fun video. I really
To
think
give people some background on it though first.
Okay, yeah, for sure. So Adobe TV, rest in peace, was our a sort of like YouTube for creative and technical professionals. So if you wanted to learn how to do something with Adobe software, chances are you could find a tutorial on it on Adobe TV. And this was before YouTube was really as huge as it is today. But I was part of the team that was responsible for, creating more content. So we really wanted to make it like a TV, experience where we would bring in hosts, like our evangelists, our product evangelists were hosts, and they would come in and we would film like 12 episodes or so at a time, and then we would spread them out over the weeks. But we also had part of it as a sort of TV channel. We had our partners and our sponsors, and NVIDIA and HP were big partners of ours. And this was there was definitely oversight, but there was a lot of flexibility in the types of things that we got to create. And even our educational content that we made for Adobe TV was, not on the questionable side, but it had more sort of entertainment value than it probably should have. And so, when HP approached us about making a promo video for the new Z800 workstation, we're like, can we make a superhero themed video? And they're like, sure, do whatever. And this was kind of like, we wanted to make a behind the scenes kind of video. And, at the time we were shooting like with EX1s in the studio. And so we really wanted to, give this behind the scenes production some like real value. So I knew Mike had a Red camera. So I reached out to him and I'm like, hey, can we borrow your Red camera for this shoot? And
well, not only that, but a lot of the scenes were filmed in Erik Maddox's office.
Oh, right, yeah. And actually, there's a shot of me and doing like this kind of like fake interview in Erik Maddox's office. Remember that? Yes. Watch.
I don't remember any of this.
You don't? Okay. Prepare to have your mind blown.
It really holds the test of time.
You were. Yeah, see, Erik was involved and Mike was involved, so this is the perfect thing to show. It is kind of weird, so just bear with it. All right, you guys ready?
Ryan is watching, guys. Ryan chimed in.
Oh, excellent. Hey, so Reggie, you want to share my screen? Okay, here it goes.
And wait, Erik, what year was this?
Oh, this was like, I don't know, 2009,
2008 or 2009, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was really early. Yeah. Oops, sorry.
And action. This project was all about trying to make a very ambitious superhero film on an extremely limited schedule and budget. We feel the world is ready for a new superhero, and that superhero is Scuba Man.
Scuba Man. Who is this Scuba Man?
Scuba Man is the hero for the next generation of fans. He's got the gadgets, he's got the costumes, he's got the superpowers. He can breathe in really shallow water and stuff. He's got it all. I came up with the idea for Scuba Man while working on a documentary in the desert a few years ago, and unfortunately at the time we didn't really have the technology to pull it off. But recently we got a hold of an HP Z800 workstation, and using that and Adobe CS5, it completely changed everything.
You got to understand that Scuba Man is a very effects-heavy project. I was working with 4K footage and green screen elements and 3D elements and atmospherics, and I actually used CS5 to put it together. Now the fact that CS5 can use all the RAM in my Z800 made a huge difference. So I could comp things faster, I could produce things much faster, so I could actually get Scuba Man done on time and on budget.
Well, we knew that this movie was going to have a lot of visual effects, and to make it easier for the visual effects artists and us in editorial, we wanted to have as much image data as possible. So shooting 4K was just a natural for us. But the problem is it just takes a lot of processing power to actually make that happen.
I don't understand anything you're saying because you're talking through your snorkel. You need to talk to me normally. You're not scuba man anymore.
For this particular show, we were actually able to take the footage from the RED cameras and bring it into our Z800s and import the R3D files directly into the timeline. And the Mercury playback engine in Premiere Pro was able to play that back in real time.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me why Scuba Man isn't ever in the water. Well, let's just say he has issues.
Scuba Man, you never told me what happened to Life Raft Boy.
He drowned.
To help create the look and feel of this movie, we use the Dream Color display because it's perfect for color critical applications.
So another thing I like about the Z800 is that it's totally expandable. And at one point during this movie, I needed more hard drive space, so I got an extra hard drive, opened up the Z800, popped in the drive, no tools required, and it just worked.
I have a plan.
I can't wait for people to see the final product. You know, the crew was awesome to work with. It was just a fantastic experience overall. And honestly, we couldn't have done it without the Z800 and CS5.
That
sorry.
kept my attention from beginning to end, which is a marketer's touchdown.
Yeah, there's no way we could make that today. That was like, that was a particular point in time when we had that flexibility, but now, you know, content is so important and so valuable to brands that everything that's created and shared on social media and elsewhere, I mean, is scrutinized. But I mean, that was a fun project, and I'm glad that, you know, we were trusted to make something odd and funny, and at least we thought it was kind of funny at the time. But yeah, and again, you saw a cameo of Erik's office, like where I was, and you saw a cameo of Mike's RED camera. So that was sort of like a very auspicious start to it all.
How fun.
Carl and I have dreamed up a Scuba Man 2 idea that we have played over and over and over again in our heads on plane ride back from either Sundance or IBC, and one day we're going to do it.
Scuba Man, next generation. So I mean, I guess we want to get into kind of like things that we're making today. I mean, we had this huge conference, right? So Adobe Max is our annual event for creatives, people who want to learn about our products or just be inspired. So every year we have this event. Typically it's in Los Angeles. It's been in Las Vegas. It's been in San Diego, but LA has been kind of its home for the last couple of years. But this year was obviously a little different with COVID. So we had to figure out a way to be able to bring the experience to our customers. And so, you know, we went from this like 20,000 or so, 17 to 20,000, I think is sort of like the in-person attendance at these things, went to I think like almost 500,000 registrations, pre-registrations for the event. So we are, you know, our extended team, like, you know, there are so many hands touching this, so many people involved in making the content for it. I think we had like over like 56 like sort of like live streaming hours, but I think there was over like 300 sessions that were available for people to watch. And a lot of that stuff is actually still available online. So if anybody wants to check it out, if you just go to max.adobe.com, you can check out a lot of the stuff that was there. Some of the content had been sort of retired because of contractual things, but there's a lot of great inspirational and instructional stuff there. But as part of that, we also use that as a showcase to be able to highlight what some of our new products or new features are. And because, you know, we had so many different teams working on stuff, Mike, Ian, and Erik, and just we're part of the team of like making this all happen. So they created an overview of stuff, and Mike can talk about it because he worked with our producer Quinn.
Yeah, Quinn initially brought the project to me, and then Quinn and Dan and I sat down and kind of went over it, and it was one of those projects that was brought to us early, but then we couldn't actually do anything with it until pretty late in the process because it was an overview video. A lot of the products were still being developed; they were still being worked on, and to get those final versions out. And so, when we finally got access to everything, it was like, okay, let's go. We got to do this, and we had to be nimble and work within our constraints because, like Erik was mentioning with COVID, we couldn't just drive down to San Francisco and have almost free reign of one of the offices that we would do in a normal year. And so we had to work in, so we worked in our office space. Erik, Maddox and I have an office together. So we worked in our office and built, I believe, 3 different setups, if I'm not mistaken, in our office. Is that right, Erik? 3 setups in the office? 4? And then
Sorry. Yeah, I think there was three here, and then we did 4 at your place.
Yeah, and then we brought it home to my house, which was first time I've done that, and interesting, but it went great. And we brought in, I think we had like 4 or 5 actors that came in. I think 5 actors that came in, and it was a really smooth shoot. And Ian came in and he helped operate for us, and then we brought it back to the office when all was said and done, and kind of raced to the finish to get it done. And I think we got it done like the day we hit our deadline. I mean, which was great, but I think it was like last minute that we finally got it across the finish line, and I think it turned out really well.
Yeah.
Do you want to play it, Erik?
Yeah, absolutely. Here, give me a second to cue it up here.
I can see like the creative connection where we each support the other in all the important ways. Now we have here. She just popped on to say hi.
Erin, hey.
The band is back.
All right, so here is the Max 2020 overview video.
That's bitchin'. I love that.
Yeah, it's incredible what the Adobe Suite can do, man. I mean, it's just, and seeing these videos just like blows my mind. I mean, there's so many little intricacies that we don't touch very often.
I mean, what's interesting to me when I first took this job here is like, I kind of had that realization that I was part of the audience that we're making the videos for, because I do use the tools almost every day. Like I'm in, Photoshop or Premiere, and some other tools in some form or fashion, like every day. And, I'm like the target demographic. So I'm like, I love watching these videos because like, I learn stuff, but then also it's like, there's also like a craft to it too. There's a little bit of storytelling involved when you make these. So
And that's the hard part, right? Like
right.
trying to make sure that the audience still understands what they're seeing on the screen. I think you can kind of get so caught up. You know what the feature is, you know how it works, but I think keeping the viewer in mind, so it's sometimes hard. But yeah, I think that played out very well. That was the first time I think I'd seen that actually. So that was really good, really well edited.
I do have a.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge, I think, too, was... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was just going to say, one of the challenges, too, with something like that is because all the features were coming in, they were literally coming in on shoot days, some of them. And so we were trying to figure that out and shoot them and kind of get to the hard part is getting to the heart of what the most important thing that someone's going to see in about a 15-second time frame for each feature, And so, but, a lot of fun. And it was great it was actually really nice to be able to work not only with, trusted colleagues, good friends that are beside me here, but also to be able to work in the comforts of our office and at home, which was surprisingly beneficial to us, because if we had gone to San Francisco to shoot this, for example, we would have been on our 10-hour day, and we would have had an hour that we would have had to wrap out and an hour that we would have had to, load in. And so because we were able to do these things in our home and in our office, we were able to kind of pre-light a lot of this stuff so that we could just kind of jump right in, and it saved us actually a lot of time in the end to get it done.
And you're feeding what's maybe people don't know, you're still feeding a signal to the client. So the client is watching a shoot, but they're not on set with us because of COVID and everything. But I think that sometimes that's better, having the client just seeing what the camera is capturing and not seeing around the frame like we were talking about around set. They just see what's being shot, what's being captured. They can keep the bigger picture in mind. And I noticed that seemed to really help, at least on that shoot it did, just having them see that stuff. So
I do want to point out that's a very specific style of video, right? Like it's a lot of screen captures. So, I mean, in order to make our screens look the best as possible, I mean, it takes some experience to be able to minimize moire and be able to capture action and make it watchable for 2 minutes or so. But I do have another video, if you guys want, I'll queue up, that kind of shows like sort of a range of other Adobe projects, and a lot of the stuff that's in this reel are things that I think like Mike, Eric, and Ian had touched. And then from there's a couple other like specific things that we could show, like our house calls show, or some of our Sundance or Hollywood Sizzle stuff that that Ian and Mike have worked on. So if you want to show some of that, we can do that too right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bring this up. All right. Share my screen.
Dude,
So-
makes me want to get like totally immersed in something creative. That is awesome.
So, I mean, when I used to think of corporate video, I mean, I thought of just like boring like industrials. And that's not what we do at Adobe. I mean, we have the opportunity to create like some really cool content and work with some really creative folks. So that's why I really value, the relationship I have with these guys and just everybody that we get a chance to work with. But yeah, like, I don't know, it seemed like corporate video was always like this thing like, oh, I don't want to make corporate videos, but I didn't realize that there was actually like, interesting career paths, within corporate video. And especially now, it's like every company needs content, branded or otherwise. And there's a way to make fun stuff. And so, I mean, I've got to make some really cool, fun stuff with these guys too. So, yeah, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and we were starting to talk about this a little bit earlier in the show, or before the show, but I think a lot of people get into this industry and they really want to do feature film and they want to do television and they want to do high-end commercial and things like that. But there's a great living to be made and a very fulfilling career to be had in corporate work as well, especially when you work with creative companies like Adobe that give you the creative freedom at times to really, spread your wings and do some really good work.
Do you guys work together on passion projects outside of Adobe, or together or apart? Because I found that in working in the industry, as soon as I was working full time in the industry, I didn't have the time for a lot of those fun projects that we would do. The 48, the 10 by 10 and the SAC music scene and do you guys?
Sure. So I'll kind of talk about that a little bit. So another thing I didn't realize about working at a corporate place like this is that you do have like some interesting benefits like sabbatical. Like that never crossed my mind about having a sabbatical. And so after 5 years, you have the opportunity to take like a month off or whatever and do whatever you want. It's basically extended vacation. I decided to make like a documentary project. And I went to South Africa for a couple weeks and started following around a couple HIV activists. And it was going to be a short project, but it turned out to be like a multi-year thing where it's a much larger project. Will probably be an episodic thing when it's all said and done. But that actually led to some interesting opportunities. One of which was like a still image from my documentary project is hanging in the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History. Because my friend, who is the main character of my documentary, is featured in this exhibit about epidemics or pandemics in a connected world, which is more relevant now than ever. But because of that, I started because I love making the videos I get to make at Adobe, but I wanted to make a larger impact. So outside of my documentary, I started a company called News Doc Media that focuses on creating social justice and nonprofit videos for organizations that need help raising awareness or creating videos for fundraising. And so I would take on a lot of pro bono work, or I would have like a really discounted rate for some other organizations. But I've worked on some stuff where Mike and Ian were able to come out, and I think Erik, maybe you've worked on some stuff, with like Hellman and all that stuff, So it's been great to collaborate with them outside of Adobe, and that's definitely a passion of mine, is being able to help other nonprofits, sort of elevate their message or get their message out there when they don't typically have the resources or capacity to do so.
Yeah.
I always use these guys as a sounding board, even if like we're not working together necessarily on a personal project. But they're always my first go-to to send, that first rough cut to, or whenever I feel like it's sort of in a place where you either get stuck or you just need another person's feedback that you really trust. And so I always send anything that I do to these guys to look at to give me their opinions and their unbiased opinions, and they they always give me, you know, amazing opinions, and that ultimately lead to, you know, they always get thank yous at least, because a thought they had or whatever always ends up making it to the final product.
We're brutally honest with them, you know.
Yeah, like chop me down.
Uh-huh.
But a lot of these, like even the projects that we work on, you know, like I have two videos here to show next, and one is like a house call show, and that, you know, really was like a collaborative effort, you know, between, you know, me, Mike, and Eric, and Eric really helped bring it to life. You know, he was there on the shoots and also really crafted the edit and gave it, like, you know, a personality, and we kind of talked about, you know, how it should sort of feel, but he really just kind of hit it out of the park. So maybe I can show one of those house calls videos, because it was really well received internally, and we're trying to figure out ways to, you know, keep that show going, you know, even though we are in COVID times. But it's definitely something that's a favorite in-house. So if you guys don't mind, I can show that, and that was definitely an example of how we collaborate.
Yeah, we also had somebody else that works with you, Diodonis Moquette. He just wanted to thank you for your contributions, and to know that he always has a blast on your sets.
Hey, he's a good dude, and that guy, anybody who's listening, he's one of the hardest working dudes I've had on a set before, and I give him major props. So if you're looking for somebody to collaborate with who's gonna show up on time and work hard, that's your guy.
What does he do? What is this?
He was
work?
He's doing some assistant.
Okay.
Yeah, on the job we did, but I mean, I think he's got producer written all over him. He's got great people.
Yeah, he produced, he directed, he started a film festival last year. Yeah, he's really a very one of those guys that when he says he's going to do something, he does it, and it's impressive. And I just keep watching him, and everything he does is better and better and better. So inevitably, he's going to find his way into working. You know, well, he's already worked with you guys. You've seen it for yourself. But yeah.
You can definitely tell the people, the motivated people that are going to go places, and he's definitely one of them.
Absolutely.
Cool. So this is the first in our house call series. We got a chance to fly out to Portland to do this with Luke, and then we went out to New York, and then went out to Austin, and just really interesting opportunity to meet with some artists, kind of do like an MTV Cribs style video mashed up with an Adobe tutorial. But this is the one that kind of really sold it internally, and so it was really fun to make. So I'm going to play this back.
Hello, Luke speaking.
Hey Luke, what's going on, man? This is Eric.
Hi Eric, how you doing?
Hey, so we really love your smudge script technique. Is it cool if we stop by your place in Portland to see how you do it?
Let me see if I got some time in the schedule.
It'll be super quick. We'll just be in and out.
Okay, all right. I'll put some clothes on.
All right, man. We'll be right over. Hey, man. Nice to see you.
You too. Welcome. Come on in. This is my partner Morgan, who's also an artist.
Hey Morgan, nice to meet you.
So we are upstairs in the mothership.
The main creative hub of the house, really.
So this is what I'm best known for, I guess, is this smudge script technique that I developed. That was born out of experimentation, just playing with colors and techniques and different tools. But if you'd like, I can show you how to do it.
Yeah, let's see it.
So what I typically do is open up one of my colorful artworks. Just usually pull anything that has multiple colors in it, so it'll allow the colors to blend really nicely. We'll also open a separate document and then go back to our colors. We want to check the smudge tool down here, and then we'll check our strength, which I like to keep in the 90s, 90% up here, and make sure that you've also checked sample all layers. So when it comes to adding a new empty layer above, it's going to take into account everything that's underneath. So what I can do is just, with my stylus, get my move tool and then drag it. And I just tend to keep all the letters over here until later when I've done them all, figured out the technique, and it usually helps keeping the flow going. So maybe we can do something a little fun. I got little technique shortcuts that are worth learning to add new layers. That's pretty much how it's done.
Nice. Thanks for sharing that.
Bada bing.
Hey, I got one last question for you.
Yeah.
Can you take me to the airport?
Yeah, I think I can do that.
So you showed a cool product and a cool dude. I love that.
Yeah, so, I mean, you know, corporate video can be fun, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead. You guys want to, Eric or Mike, want to talk about that project?
I mean, I think the thing that I love the most about it is just, I mean, besides the end result, I remember those trips so fondly, you know, just especially just being able to travel with you guys and being just such a small, close-knit crew like we are. And, you know, they're just a lot of fun. I remember all the other stuff that happens. I barely even remember.
Did you ever, did that guy, the founder of Big League Chew, did he ever send you some gum for your kids?
No, I emailed him too.
He totally did.
Yeah, we met the founder. Big
We're
League
calling
Chew
him
at
out
dinner.
right here.
Not a big enough corporation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but Eric really kind of helped champion that that piece, and like Eric Espera said, Eric Maddox really kind of took hold of that and kind of ran with it. And I think that's because, Eric, you've had other experiences doing other like local home shows and things like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, that style was very much, it came from there's a production company in Sacramento that has done a series of Crasher shows on HGTV, and I used to cut a fair amount of those. And so we really kind of took that style of editing and music and transitions and kind of, you know, use that sort of as inspiration for how to kind of cut this thing. Because, I mean, that was, you know, I mean, we took probably, I mean, I'd say 6 hours of footage and cut that down to, you know, a real short amount of time that needed to cut quickly. And I think our first cut was like 3 times that length. And so it just ended up becoming how do we whittle this down? How do we show the product well, you know, so that you understand the technique? Because that's the hardest part is, you know, at the end, the audience doesn't understand how to do the demo, then it doesn't make any sense in the demo. And so, so ultimately, you know, it was about finding ways to edit it so that was clear. So, but it was a 2-camera shoot. We shot 2 Panasonic EVA ones for anybody who's.
Oh, and I had a GoPro. I was holding a GoPro.
I was 3.
GoPro, yeah. That's right. You know, I was operating one of the cameras, and Mike was operating one of the cameras, and we were just going, you know, just kind of eye contact, you know, making sure we weren't, you know, doubling up on the same kind of angle and position, and making sure we had an edit the whole time. But yeah, Luke was great on camera too. He deserved that guy. He was really good and just took direction really well and was easy. And so, yeah, so that made our job a little easier too. So.
Well, I see that you keep your talent budget quite slim by putting Erik into all of these starring roles.
He always wants to for some reason. I don't know what that is.
But see, the whole thing was like you're not supposed to see my face, right? It was always just like I was supposed to be like the neighbor in Home Improvement, right? You never see my whole face. But that was I think we kind of lost that though, like with the New York, because like we did another one with an artist in New York, but we did a Zoom kind of call, and so you kind of had to see my face, but I was a little tiny in the screen. But that's the only other time you saw me. But yeah, I mean, you know, we get to travel. That was a fun, you know, several shoots for that. But we also do other stuff like at Sundance, and so those are also kind of a beast. Because, you know, we're in Park City for, 8 or 9 days at a time. Yeah. And so we usually start off by doing like a live stream with the festival director. And so we'll rent 2 houses, and one house will be like the production house, and we'll set up the cameras and we'll set up the lights and live streaming stuff if we're doing live streaming from there. And then the other house would be editors, and they would cut the stuff. But we would you know, spend, you know, a month or 2 ahead of Sundance coordinating with filmmakers who use our products, who've been accepted into Sundance, and you know, working with them to figure out a schedule and figure out what their stories are so we could interview them on location. And so we'll invite them to the house, almost press junket style, where they'll come in and we'll interview them, and then we'll back up all the footage and cut. But at the same time, we're trying to get footage of of Sundance that we could use in our sizzle reels for later. So having flexibility in the crew is like really important. So everybody kind of has to be able to wear multiple hats and shoot and edit and color and do whatever. Because
do you have a larger group for that kind of an event, or is it still just you guys?
I mean, it's been typically like me, Mike, and Ian, or some configuration, a very small crew, and then an editor, person who's kind of mostly dedicated to editing, but can like pinch hit and do other things as well. And then we have like our DVA leads, the product manager, product manager of Premiere Pro, Megan Keene, who the talented filmmaker, producer herself, has that project at Sundance. She knows her way around the festival and has a great way of talking with the customers and being able to like get them to open up about their experiences and about the product. And so I don't know, we have a Sundance reel that we could show that's made up of some of these interviews that we've done on location. We also have a Hollywood sizzle, which is kind of similar to that, but these are things that Mike and Ian have worked on. Do you guys have a preference? Which ones you guys want to show? Or
I think Ian wants to show the Hollywood reel.
Yeah,
right?
I'm good with either one though. Honestly, I mean the Hollywood reel, just more. I mean it's not as indie, but I'm okay with that. If you want Sundance. Do you have it? I have it queued up. I think
I have it too.
Okay.
I also have. Let's show the
Okay.
Hollywood sizzle, and then I also have Disclosure. Disclosure was a film
right
that
on.
was at Sundance
Yeah,
this last
that's
year,
right.
and so that kind of is an example of
There you
one
go.
of the interviews that we actually make, and so we're kind of stuck with the locations that we have, so we have to make them look as best we can, and try to make something out of next to nothing. But yeah, let's start with the Hollywood sizzle. Let's go ahead and play that.
While you're queuing that up, I wanna invite the people that are watching. If you guys have any questions for these guys, feel free, please, to type it into Facebook. We can bring it up in here, and they can answer any of your questions.
We're getting a lot of highs and high fives and comments, but specific questions that you might want to hear an answer to would be passed on.
Cool. So I'll go ahead and play this.
Every time when we work on a project, we try to do something new and exciting. One of the reasons why we choose Adobe products is that it gives us more flexibility in what we're trying to achieve.
As a feature editor, you always want things to be changing and improving. We want to be comfortable with the tools with which we work.
What we need in an editing package is really an uninterrupted flow between the idea and the output. And so Premiere seemed like the perfect choice for us.
I feel like I'm able to work faster. I'm able to get an idea out of my brain faster with Premiere. We just love the program, and I feel like the show is better because of it.
As cutting becomes more involved with visual effects, that's become increasingly important that you have platforms like this helping you sort of see the film as you go along.
The way I edit is conducive to using Adobe Premiere. The way I can move in Premiere is the way that I would see things playing out on my head.
Premiere is simple to navigate, but it offers so much complexity.
These are the kinds of tools that we need to go beyond metaphor and go beyond simile.
Premiere Pro allowed us to just concentrate on telling the story and less about importing and doing all these other things that slow down the process and would have really hindered our creative ability.
For me, editing is 50% direction, because I'm recreating it in post and I'm rewriting it in post.
I think that it's an extreme golden time
the editing system doesn't get in your way and allows you to facilitate the vision that you think in your head that you would like to be able to do. And the system says, yeah, I can do that.
Wow. Makes me realize how cool it is that in some way your fingerprints are on so many of those amazing films. You know, you didn't get involved personally, but the work that you do is personally involved.
That's the best part about editing those is that you get all the trailers to those films. So you get to, you know, essentially mess around with their trailers, and the interviews look great. It's just that was one of my favorite pieces, you know, that I've edited, I think.
So Ian, how did that work out? So did you work with Summer on that, or was it?
Yeah, Summer and Mike. Yeah. So they gave me, you know, so many interviews and so many trailers, and just said, you know, can cut a compelling, you know, piece out of this. And
was there any guidance given? Because a lot of times I know we have some of these interviews transcribed, and they'll give you kind of like a list of selects to choose from, or did you just kind of have free reign to pick whatever you needed?
I remember. Yeah,
I think the ones that we had, the interviews that we actually had shot were transcribed.
Right.
I do recall one thing about this particular project, which was Ian had cut what I thought was an even better version of this, the first cut that we did, and because he was able to use this one guy that was in I think it was the Mindhunter edit, right? And then we found out that we weren't able to use him anymore, and but you know, so Ian had to scramble a little bit, and he did such a great job, like finding the pieces to make this piece work all over again, even though we had used a good portion of that guy's.
Forgot about that because it was that editor from Mindhunter, right? It was one of them. And David Fincher had a beef, or there was some beef, and they didn't give us clearance to use any of that stuff. And he had really good sound bites.
He had great sound bites to use in it, and it was kind of a bummer. I know that we sulked for a couple days, and then we got back to work, and and then Ian made it happen.
I mean, I think one thing to remember too is like we are all filmmakers, we all are creatives, and we all have very strong opinions about what we think works as as a creative sort of story. But at the end of the day, like in this context, I mean, we are making videos that are helping support Adobe and our partners, and so we all have to be good with putting our egos aside and doing what's better for like the overall, like the whole, right? Like we're trying to make a successful project, and I think we're all really good at that. Being able to kind of like put our own particular beliefs aside in order to make the project better. So
you kind of finish each other's sentences. You're like old married couples, but there's 4 of you.
Spend enough time together.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Diodonis. He's saying, since you guys have interviewed so many filmmakers, what's the thing that you found the successful filmmakers have in common?
That's a good question.
I think at least, because I've been going to Sundance, interviewing filmmakers. I mean, obviously, I would love to be able to have a project at Sundance, and Sundance was, in doing this, was like a huge inspiration for me to start my own documentary project. But I've been going there since like 2012, and like the common thing that I hear every year from all the filmmakers is just like, like they just have this drive to make something. Like they weren't going to let somebody stop them from from making it. Like they had figured out a way to make it happen, and whether that was like fundraising themselves or bootstrapping, or calling on a bunch of favors with friends, or editing and doing everything themselves. Like they just had this drive to make it happen, and you could see it in the projects. Like it's just it was really inspiring, and I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to make my own project.
Yeah, that's true. They a lot of them say don't wait for the right moment, or don't wait for the right don't wait for the money to come in. If you really want to make it, just start making it, and also keep it. I found like some of them, keep it simple, like stick to what resources you have and don't overcomplicate your story. If it's a good story, then, you don't need to have as many locations maybe, but just make sure it's a good story to start with. But yeah, I think a lot of them just want to, they have that drive to make it, like you said, Eric. And that's true. It's a reoccurring theme for sure.
Yeah, and I think, we interview a lot of people and typically we're asking them a lot of questions about the technical aspects of the process because we're discussing the product like Premiere Pro or After Effects or Audition.
Yeah.
And in that, I think, oh, sorry, I've lost some of my train of thought there. It was going to be good, but I lost it.
I'll come back. I'll come back.
It's getting, I'm usually in bed by now. I have 2 kids.
It's one of those things, though. I mean, literally, you each have a different story, but yet your stories all intersect. It makes for an amazing conversation, and we can go off into so many different tangents. And like, we probably spent half of it talking about, the good old days and how great that was, and the people that we'd love to, bring together again. So we'll definitely have to do it again. And what I'm curious about, I want to know from the Adobe standpoint, because we are really big on, right now, the focus is on education. We want to build, an industry in Sacramento, and we have a lot of part-time filmmakers or hobbyists who are keeping a day job but doing this evenings and weekends and every vacation. So what we know is that in order to do that, we need to expand our footprint of production talent in a variety of different areas. Is there something that you could recommend that we could work within coordination with Adobe to, just again, further that education, whether it's in, at one point we were doing, putting in a bid to do classes and actually hold below the line production classes to get people up to speed with just the most basic of skills if they get to be on set so that they know what to do and how to do it. And then understand all the different jobs that Adobe deals with every type of filmmaker. So the products and just the, just the industry support of what they're doing, I think is a cool connection that if we could figure out a way to make together, I'd love to do that.
Yeah, I mean, things have obviously changed in COVID times, like, in-person trainings and all that stuff.
It'll be back.
It'll be back. But I mean, we do have these wonderful resources like Adobe Live. I don't know if you guys have checked out Adobe Live, but it literally it's kind of what Adobe TV has maybe evolved to in some, odd way several years after Adobe TV had retired. But it's hosted on our Behance website, but you could find it on YouTube if you just Google Adobe Live. But they have programming that starts, I think, like at 9 a.m. that runs to 3 p.m. every day. And they have creative professionals coming in doing live streams and breaking down their process from everything from Photoshop to like visual effects to whatever. And, there's just so much great content out there on Adobe Live and on YouTube in general. Like there's just a wealth of information people can just Google and find like how to use the software or find great examples. And there's a lot of influencers that have sort of made it their careers to, sort of share their knowledge with people. But, it's just a matter of doing it, like doing the reps, like making projects and networking. And I know it's more difficult now in COVID times to get out and network because you can't have these things, but events like this, where we can kind of get together and chat and then people are asking questions online. And I think they're wonderful opportunities for people to be familiar with, local folks and, be able to reach out to. But in terms of like getting connected with Adobe and doing stuff, I mean, there are several opportunities where that might happen, but more of on like an individual basis. Like we have our Creative Residence program, which is Something that I think, Mike and Ian and Erik probably have all worked on at some point. But we basically, do a worldwide search for creative talent who submits a proposal and say, I would like to do X for a year. And, there's a panel that will like review all the applications, and they'll grant the person, a Adobe Creative Residency where they basically get paid for a year to make their passion project. So we want to be able to enable creatives to make their projects. And so part of that, they have to do some talks, for Adobe, and they'll make appearances now, mostly virtually. But they do get the flexibility to go out and make their projects. So it could be anything, like one person was doing light projection things based on like old faded signs on buildings, and he had a really interesting proposal for that. And we have like talented photographers and designers, and we had our first filmmaker last year come in as a creative resident. I think he was Gary V's like videographer / creative director, and so he had an opportunity to work on a passion project of his, and Adobe was able to help support him during that time. So there are definitely ways to be able to connect with Adobe, and there's always, we always have like, not just challenges, but I mean, there are opportunities to kind of like share your work with Adobe on Behance and network there. So, I mean, there are definitely ways to get connected with the community, so.
Yeah, it seems like Adobe Max, I, as a matter of fact, was promoting, but I didn't get the information about the event until I think it was the day before. It was very, very close. And I was bummed because I wanted to, I have a newsletter that goes out in our social media, and, we've got a big footprint of over 5,000 people here, just here. So I really wanted to be able to share further in advance, even information about the events and things that are going on. So I don't know if I need to get on a mailing list or something, because I'm just not.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a distribution list of like events. I mean, there's like there's so much going on. Like I can't be aware of everything.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, they're just like the main events that that I touch every year that I'm familiar with. But there are so many things, and plus like Adobe just isn't Creative Cloud. Like Adobe is also like our marketing and experience cloud. So we have like tools for data and analytics and stuff like that. And that side of the house also has their own video production team with their own creative directors and producers. And so they create some really interesting content there as well. So, yeah, so and they have their own events. So I'm always just.
Yeah, it's all so beneficial, and it's all information that I just want to make sure that we share it as best we can. We know it is coming up, so it's maybe we just need to be digging out deeper in that direction.
I mean, maybe on the site, maybe on the Adobe.com site, there might be something that lists kind of upcoming stuff. But I mean, our social channels are pretty good about promoting things well in advance, because we definitely want to get registration or raise awareness about certain things. So if anybody hasn't followed, at Adobe on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, they should probably do that.
Yeah. Reggie, make a note of that in the comments so we can put anything in the comments that we want to come back to.
Yeah, and I think also Creative Cloud has their own social. So
yeah, because I don't think I am. So yeah. Shame on me. That's, the connections that we can make, the information that we can share that helps inform this community and helps us to engage with your products and your company, and also just to really, follow what you guys are doing. I love that everybody is making their living doing something that they love to do. And that, I think, is the best example that we can set through this show and in person, and to be able to share that with all of these people that, know you and have heard about you or have recognized some of the projects that we're mentioning. think it just really shows people that the starting point is where you are, you know, and you just need to take that next step and then take that next step and find the people that support and complement what you do, so that you have the equivalent of a team. A team, you know, it's stupid. Teamwork makes the dream work. It's the truth. And when you're lucky enough to have a team like this, it's not a job, you know, it's just having a good time and then proud of, you know, what you create in the end. So I think you're all very blessed, and we're lucky to have you here. I definitely, you know, want to make sure that we continue to share your stories. Aaron, did you have anything else that we wanted to touch on?
I mean, I still have a couple of questions. I mean, but you know, I think one of them was, I mean, you guys work on all these Adobe conferences every year. What are, I mean, besides like Sundance, I mean, some of the incredible conferences, but what are some of the ones that you guys look forward to every year?
Well, IBC was like by far my favorite.
Yeah.
Because it's Amsterdam.
There's the one in Amsterdam.
Yeah. So it's like, for people who don't know, IBC is the International Broadcasting Conference, and it's the European sort of equivalent to NAB in Vegas, the National Association of Broadcasters Convention. And so, you know, NAB is fun, but I think I had gone to NAB like every year for 22 years before I stopped going. Like, I was like, okay, I'm over Vegas, I'm over this. And so when we had the opportunity to start going to Amsterdam and, you know, promote our products and do the same thing that we were doing at NAB. At NAB, we would, you know, have a couple hotel rooms and we would do interviews there. In Amsterdam, you know, we had apartments that were like 3 stories up, like super steep, narrow stairs, and we'd have to lug like a bunch of gear and lights up these stairs. And you know, and it's just fun. You know, it's kind of an adventure. You know, and long. I mean, obviously, just the hours just kind of blend right into one another, and you're just kind of working the whole time. But it's a cool experience to do. But IBC is definitely one of my favorites, which we haven't gone to in like the last 2 years. But Sundance has always been like really good too. So.
Yeah, I'd echo that. I think that I used to love going to Amsterdam, and just the city is incredible. And, you know, we work really hard and we work incredibly long hours some days, and other days we get a little bit more time in the evening to be able to go out and enjoy the city and enjoy ourselves, and, you know, eat interesting food and meet new people. And it's just it's a great bonding experience because we are doing it all together. When we do Sundance, when we do IBC, when we do NAB in Vegas, like, you know, we get to do these things together. And I think I realized about, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, what I really loved about what I do is that I love the process of it. And that process and really includes working with some of my, you know, best friends. And so, so it's not always just the end result. It's not about, you know, for me, it's not working on some feature film that I'm, you know, have this tiny little spot on that I've potentially worked on, but it's about working with these guys.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely on those long trips too. I'd say that's just as important. Being able to work with somebody that you can get along with and that you can sit next to on a plane for, you know, 13, 14 hours and share an apartment with, or share a bedroom with, depending upon where you're staying. It's just really, you spend a lot of time together. And so, working around people that you can get along with it makes all the difference in the world. And then, we become good friends because of it. But it's also because we work really hard, I think, and spend a lot of time together. It's like when I used to serve tables, everybody I worked with in that restaurant was like family, because you go through good times and bad times together. You know, it's something about that kind of brings people closer. And so, I just kind of echo what you say, Mike, about that.
You know, it's funny because usually when you're working independently, you have this silo, you know, where you work for a lot of different clients and you work on your own, but you don't have a team like you do when you work for a company together. But you guys have the best of both worlds in that you have this company that brings you guys together to be able to pull all of your skills and behave as a team. And how many times a year do you work on projects together for Adobe, would you say?
Oh man,
Yeah.
that's a good question.
I'd say I've always got an
I mean,
edit.
I think I used to like primarily work with Mike at first, like when we first started, you know, when he first came into like video production at Adobe, because we knew Mike Burton as like the guy that ran like the behind the scenes of Adobe TV, and then, you know, there were some opportunities that came up where Mike was able to come in and really kind of prove that he was a great filmmaker to work with. And then all of a sudden, all the other producers started working with him, and like a lot of times he's like, you know, kind of booked, and I have to look elsewhere. But yeah.
Well, we want to support any of the needs that you have. If you're looking for really good people, I would love to know that and be able to direct them to you. So keep that that conduit open, because we definitely would love to add more local people to the team that you guys are doing. So.
I do have to say one thing before I go. This is kind of like related to the whole CFAA and Sac music scene in Sacramento thing. Like, you know, I worked in Sacramento as like a video person in many capacities for years and years and years, and was always like kind of envious and maybe intimidated by like LA crews and like people who worked in LA until I moved to LA. Like, I had the opportunity to move down there and work for 5 years, and I was like, some of these people are clueless. But you know, obviously there's a lot of talent down there, but I think that it's just you know, it just reminded me of like how many great filmmakers that I was able to collaborate with in Sacramento and in Northern California, that you know, it's all about the opportunities. I mean, obviously there's an industry built around filmmaking, so opportunities do exist there, but there are other opportunities that exist in Northern California that are just waiting to be explored and you know, and take advantage of. Like, you know, like I said before, I never thought I'd make a career for myself in corporate video, but here I am, and I love it. So
I would say yours is a dream gig in corporate video. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, I honestly, like, I do remember I was on a flight back from Sundance, and I was sitting next to this woman, and you know, just having regular conversation, and she was just kind of asking what I did, and at the time, I actually, like, it was before Sundance, I was doing a lot of travel before then, just like various shoots, and she's like, oh, you must be so happy to have like a dream job. I'm like, I never thought of it as like a dream job before, but it really made me kind of like consider like how fortunate I've been with the opportunities I've been able to take or make for myself to find myself in this position. But yeah, it was really interesting and kind of eye-opening to have that conversation and hear her perspective, because like a lot of times you're just kind of in it, like you're just like a lot of, you know, up to your eyeballs in projects or whatever, and it's hard to kind of like look at the bigger picture and see where you're at. But yeah, sometimes it's nice to kind of step back and you know, just kind of appreciate things that you've done and were able to do. But also don't take it for granted, because there's always somebody hungrier to kind of like take your place. So that's the other thing too. It's like you always have to keep innovating and like making cool stuff, because then, you know, there's going to be some other like new hot shit coming up that you're going to have to compete with. So
yeah.
So, like, never.
Well, that's what I love about, like, I mean, we've done some of these conference type shows like IBC and NAB and whatnot, and every year we always have, Erik and I always have conversations for sometimes hours about how are we going to do this differently, like what are we going to do differently this year to make this better than last year. So we're never complacent. We're always trying to do better work, and that's the way it should be.
Right on. I think that is a perfect place to end, because I think that everybody here, you know, as much as it's great to work in a team and work together, to have something that you're proud of and that you know that your footstep is a part of that impression. I love that as filmmakers, we get to leave behind a legacy that will never, ever go away. Doesn't mean everybody's going to see it. We're going to walk down a red carpet, but, you know, to have your work emblazoned in that way is really something that I love, and every filmmaker that I know, that's what they appreciate, you know, as they get to the other side of it. That's not the pre-production side of it. You don't appreciate anything then. But I want to thank you guys so much. Definitely, Erik, we will probably tap you in regards to StreamYard, because I know Reggie and I both, our ears perked up when we knew that you were working with that too, and could probably teach us a lot that we don't know. But we definitely will be continuing, you know, to have webcasts, definitely going into the rest of the year and beyond. Even when we can come back together in person, this is a really great way to bring people who can't travel or, you know, aren't able to be here in person, and to reach an audience that's a lot larger. So we've had a lot of really good success with that. And I know that the information that you guys have brought to us and to the audience tonight is going to be something that will be viewed and viewed and viewed and viewed and viewed. So thank you again for your time, for your effort. I love seeing all of you. It's been too long. I'm just wishing I could hug you all in person, and we have to make sure that it's not so long. But now we got, you know, these people coming out of the woodwork, so we'll have to plan something else fun for the future. Again, a better showcase of what is happening with people who, you know, are from this region and have the kind of
get Ryan, and then get Aaron and Lucas, and yeah, I'd love to hear about what everybody's up to.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We will drag them kicking and screaming, and then they'll laugh their asses off all the way through it. So thank you again. We're going to end the broadcast. So thank everybody who has been watching. If you just jumped on, we will have this archived and available on our Facebook page and on our YouTube page and on our website. So you'll be able to find this and other episodes of the CFAA Film Talk webcast. So thank you.
Thanks,
Happy
guys.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Yeah, you too.
Seriously, like, much love. Elizabeth, if you did not take your shot yet, get ready, because I'm going to make everybody smile. Okay, so smile at the camera, and Elizabeth is going to take our group picture. I hope she got it.